This is Straight Talk. You're welcome. My name is Eshomomoh, and with me today to take a look at happenings is the former man who superintended over the Bureau of Public Enterprises in Nigeria, talking about Malam Nasir El-Rufai. So you're welcome to my show today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Yeah, the leadership question in Africa. Do you think leadership is one problem we do have in Africa, or followership problem?
I think leadership is the only problem we have in Africa. It is the leadership problem that has led to a followership problem. The two are linked together. But leaders set the tone and to a large extent modulate the behavior of the followers. So I don't like to focus on followers. I would like us to focus on leadership, because I think that is the only problem Africa has.
Now, how do we get things right if that is the problem we have, and we all know that this is the problem we have, but we've not made a conscious attempt to go the right path? So how do we begin to get on the right path or get leadership?
I think we need more democracy and more openness in governance in Africa. And to do that, all elites must understand that governance matters. Government matters. Without a functioning government, you cannot do anything. But we have a situation in Africa in which the middle classes and the upper middle class feel that government is for other people. Politics is for thugs. All the educated people, all the wealthy, independent-minded people have chosen a different path: to be in the private sector, to be in the diaspora, or to be in the military and universities. We have left the political space and the public service space to second-class graduates and third-class graduates in universities and so on and so forth. And this is why we have the sort of country we have. At least speaking about Nigeria, you can see that our best people are not in politics. There are a few good ones, I must say, but generally speaking, most Nigerians think that politics is for layabouts.
Don't you agree with that, considering what you've seen in Nigerian politics, that it's really not a good talk for the good people?
No, but you know, you have a chicken and egg situation here. Plato, the Greek philosopher, said this 3,000 years before the Christian era, that the punishment we suffer when we do not take matters, when we do not take interest in matters of government, that will be ruled by the worst of people. And this is exactly what is happening in Nigeria. Since the demise of the First Republic, when we had some of our best and brightest people, and to some extent the Second Republic, we have left the political space to criminals, and they have taken over. So why are we surprised that we live in a country where the culture of impunity is so endemic? It is exactly what Plato has predicted more than 5,000 years ago, and it is playing out here in Nigeria right before our eyes. We have people without conscience, without any pedigree, without any name to protect, without track record or jobs to go back to. So they go into government basically to steal. So why are we surprised? If all the good people keep away from politics, who will be in politics? It's a vacuum. It will be filled by bad people. If all the good people go abroad or join the private sector, who is going to be in government? The people that are not so good. And this is what is happening. We are seeing an intersection of bad people in government, bad people in politics, and our country is running down. It's going down the drain.
Now, even the good ones that want to get involved, there is that kind of a tactical way of edging them out of the contest.
Because they are not a critical mass. There are very few of them. There are very few of them. When we were in the government, only about 4 of us as ministers could stand up and say we disagreed with President Obasanjo. There are 42 ministers. Only about 4 that I remember could speak in council against anything Obasanjo wanted to do if we disagreed. Why?
So others will just agree with you?
Everybody will keep quiet. And this is the problem. When you pick people that have never achieved anything in their lives and put them in these very senior government positions, they want to remain there forever. They will do anything to remain there. They would not tell the president the truth. They would not look at the governor and tell him the truth, which is their job as advisors, because a minister is an advisor to the president.
In that case, is it the fault of the people or the fault of the man who plays them? Because
no, it is a bit of both, okay? It is the fault of the elites, in my opinion. I won't say the people. In every society, the elites, those that are privileged with education, money, or influence, are the ones that ought to sit down and set the tone for the structure of that society. Okay? If our elites have chosen not to go into politics and set that tone, as I said, there is a vacuum, the bad ones will take over. We've seen that in Nigeria. So there is that. It is also true that the leader that picks those around him is culpable, because you are responsible for those you select. Exactly. Okay? You are constrained to some extent, because our constitution, for instance, says that the president must appoint a minister from each state. But it doesn't say that he should appoint a criminal from the state. It says that you should look for the best possible person and appoint him to be minister. So there are constraints, but still I believe that in this country we have so much talent that if we are really looking for square pegs to put in square holes, we will find them. And there is
I think it has to do with the sincerity of the person in charge.
No, as I said, leaders must be checked. Absolute power, power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. So leaders must be checked. It is in their own interest to create a system that they are checked. Okay? If they are not checked, even good people become bad people. I have seen that transformation. I know many people that I have worked with, that I have interacted with, that were really good when we worked together. Some of them have become governors and ministers, and they have become monsters because there is no check and balance. Leaders must be checked throughout history. So it is not just the leader. The people must be able to speak out. The people must complain. The elites must come and say this is not acceptable. But in this country, you have a conspiracy of silence by the elites. Everybody just keeps quiet because everybody is just waiting for his turn. And it is not taking us anywhere. We are all going to be consumed by this crisis. This keg of gunpowder that we're sitting on, in which 75% of the population is below the age of 35, they have no jobs, no hope, and they have not seen a country that ever functioned. It's a keg of gunpowder. It will explode and destroy all of us if we don't do something about it.
No, it's this scenario you have described, is it peculiar to Nigeria?
To a large extent, it is a problem all over Africa, because the largest segment of youthful population in the world is in Africa. About half of all the youths in the world will be from Africa by the year 2030 by some British Council study. But it is, having a youthful population is a resource. If you educate your population, if you make them productive, you will get a demographic dividend. But we are not doing that. Nigeria is not doing that. There are many African countries that are doing that. They are dealing with the problem through investment in education, human capital, and so on and so forth. We are not doing that, and we are sitting on a keg of gunpowder. And I think it will explode on us if we don't do something.
Talking about sitting on the keg of gunpowder, somebody once said that we need the Arab Spring Revolution to kind of effect a change. Would you also subscribe to such?
No, I'm not sure. I'm not sure we need that. I don't think we should allow situation. This is why I'm making these strident calls all the time. I'm very active in social as well as traditional media making this call. My appeal is to elites to realize the danger we are in and all come together, be active in politics and public service so that we change the direction of the country, okay? Because many of us have decided to keep out, all right? I do not see the Arab Spring or African Spring as a solution. Look at the countries that went through Arab Spring. Which of them has stability? Is it Egypt or is it Tunisia? So, revolutions are sexy, okay? People find them attractive and so on, and people like to romanticize about them. But the reality is, peaceful democratic change is the best way to achieve progress, that we work at getting it to work. Let us not succumb to the attractions of anarchy. What we have in the Arab countries, there was some organizing principle and some consistency in language, religion, and culture. When our own spring happens here, you will have 20 springs. How are we going to deal with it? Which army will be able to contain it? So let us stand up and do something about it before we get there. And we will get there if we continue with this Jonathanian slide into anarchy.
The Jonathanian slide into anarchy, you
yes,
say?
Yes.
But the problem, is it about him or even those that were there before he came in?
No, the problem has always been there, but he has multiplied it several times by incompetent governance and a very narrow-minded approach to governance. Everything that is bad has been exacerbated under Jonathan. We've always had corruption, but it has got much worse. We've moved from corruption to an entrenched culture of impunity under Jonathan. Trillions are being stolen and nothing is happening. Somebody stole billions.
Was it not always like that?
No,
Even
not
in the government you
not
sat?
at that scale. Have you ever heard of 2.6 trillion, half of the federal government's budget stolen in 1 year in Nigeria's history? Half of the federal government budget stolen in 1 year in the name of fuel subsidy. This is what has happened. Have you ever heard of that? Have you ever seen a situation in which a person steals pensioners' money, 23 billion naira, and he is fined 250,000 naira and told to go home? The fact that this can be done is a sign that everybody believes he can get away with anything. This is where we are. And I want people to reflect on that, because there is a tendency on the part of the Jonathanians to say, oh, the problem has always been there. Yes, but what is the scale of the problem? And are you going to say as a leader, oh, the problem has been there, so I'll go to sleep, I'll allow it to fester? Your job is to solve problems. You cannot solve all of them, but even if you reduce them by 10%, you can say you've led. When you do nothing but allow things to escalate, you are not a leader, you are a joke.
No, if you term it Jonathanian kind of a leadership, do you blame that leadership or the leadership that gave the people such a leadership?
There is enough blame to go around. Okay? But once you're in charge, you have no time for blame or trying to find excuses. You do what you can. I was Minister of Abuja. I did not inherit a perfect Abuja. Those before me did many things that were not right, but I did not complain once about what they did. I looked at the situation I had on ground and tried to fix what I could. I didn't solve every problem, but I was not whining and crying and saying others created the problem, so I can't do anything about it. I solved the ones I could. That is all we are asking of any government. That is all we are asking. Nobody said you should solve every problem, but for God's sake, show us that you are solving some. Nobody said you should eradicate corruption, but don't go around, pardoning convicted people that have been convicted by regular courts for corruption, and then you say you are fighting corruption. You are sending the wrong signal. Not only to those engaging in corruption, but also to young people who see that there is reward in being corrupt. This is what Jonathan is doing.
And that was what also government before him did.
Tell me which government before him pardoned convicted corrupt criminals. Tell me. One example in Nigeria's history.
Let's go to the issue of insurgency in Africa. It can also be traced, especially this issue of the Boko Haram that is in Nigeria. You have the Mali crisis, you have insurgents in Mali that came in. You will also trace it to leadership question.
Yeah. They all have their roots in leadership and bad governance. They all have their roots. Look, people that are well governed, that feel a sense of fairness and justice, don't go and pick up arms and start fighting. Wherever you see an insurgency, there is a reason for it. And the government should look at the fundamental reasons and try to address them using the carrot and fight the insurgents using the stick. This is how to solve an insurgency anywhere in the world. I've just finished a book written by a professor in a university in the US, Max Boot, on insurgencies. 3,000 years of history of insurgencies. And there is nowhere in the world where you have insurgencies that do not have these characteristics. They stem from dissatisfaction with governance, a feeling of unfairness, whether real or perceived, it doesn't matter. The feeling is there, address it using the carrot. Sit and find out what is the root of the problem and try to address it. But addressing such a problem is usually a long-term problem. In the short term, you have to confront the insurgency using military force. That is the way to do it. Here in Nigeria, we are just applying military force and we think we can resolve an insurgency. It's not going to happen. I've been in government. I've run a territory. And I know the amount of information I get, security reports that I get as minister. The president gets 50 times that. And I put it to you and I challenge anyone, including DGSSS, to this. The SSS know who these insurgents are. They are not ghosts. They know them. The president knows them. And they know what to do. They are just unwilling to do it. They don't care.
And considering the size of Nigeria, if Nigeria cannot handle this, then it's a big problem for Africa.
It is going to be a big problem, at least for the West Africa sub-region, if we are unable to handle this.
Okay, let's go on break, and when we come back, Nasir El-Rufai will be here also to still take a deeper look at these issues that will be coming up. Please do stay with us. Now, you're welcome back. Now, if you're just joining us, I've been speaking with Malam Nasir El-Rufai, a former minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nigeria. Now, you wrote a book recently, The Accidental Public Servant.
Yes, I did.
So you are that public servant that got in there by accident?
Yes. If you read the book, you will see the series of accidents that got me to where I am.
Now, does it bother you that several other public servants also got in by accident, which means they were not prepared? Is that the meaning? They were not prepared for it?
I think it is part of the problem. I think we depend too much on accidents in producing our leaders. And one of the arguments I made in the book is that as long as we depend on accidents, we will not make much progress, because other countries have a deliberate policy of identifying leaders and nurturing them over time, so that by the time they get to the top, they are well prepared. In our own case, it is mostly accidents. I got there by accident. I was lucky I was a bit prepared for some of the assignments given to me, so I tried my best. But most people are not prepared for the assignments given to them. And then we expect performance. It's not going to happen. Things don't work out that way.
Now, some of the things I discovered in the book you wrote is an attempt to create openness in the public service.
Yes, and I think it's very important, for several reasons. First, I think that, as I said before, leaders need to be checked. It is our duty as elites, you and I, those of us that are privileged with education, with some influence and a voice, to continue to make the call that our leaders need to be checked. It is in their own interest. Secondly, this checking can only be possible when people are informed, when people are mobilized, when people are angry about the state of their country and wanting to do something about it. This is part of the reason why I wrote the book.
Recently, I think in this present government in Nigeria, this issue of the official secret, the secret act where public servants are made to swear to an oath of secrecy. And when you were in government, did you swear to such oath of secrecy?
No. I swore to an oath of office. That's all. I didn't swear to any oath of secrecy, and there is no such oath of secrecy in the public service.
But been introduced, no. Public servants?
I think if it is introduced, it is outside the law. There is no oath of secrecy in the public service. There are two oaths: oath of allegiance to the Federal Republic and oath of office. And it contains everything. Now, there are legislations like the Official Secrets Act that define what cannot be made public.
You swore to that?
Yeah, I'm aware of it.
So how do we open up if we have certain things that cannot? Because
the Official Secrets Act says that you should not transmit any information that threatens national security.
And who defines national security?
I think we know what threatens national security when we see it. It's difficult to define, but you know what is national security when you see it.
So a leader can decide that this is a threat to national security, and no, but that information will be kept away from the law.
The Freedom of Information Act allows you to go to court and challenge it. He has to prove that it has impact on national security. Look, there is enough legislation and process to determine all that. Okay? But there is nothing like oath of secrecy, as far as I know, in the public service.
Some of the things you discovered was, while you were still in the public service, was kind of not too good for the system. We talked about the government you served in, the third-term issue, which you wrote about, and several other issues. Do you think that this country should ever tread that path, or any other country? Because it happens in several other countries in Africa. You have the constitution change. Nigeria didn't succeed in doing that, but you have in other African countries.
No. You see, for me, clearly, the third-term adventure was a wrong adventure, and we're opposed to it as a group. And we deliberated on ways to see that it is ended as neatly as possible, because we believe that constitutional development will only be achieved in this country if we all abide by the Constitution. Those that wrote the Constitution, the 49 wise men that wrote the 1979 Constitution, which versions of it we are still working on, put a term limit of 2 years, of 2 terms. And we should just stick to it. There is a reason they did that. The Americans, the American Constitution, from which our own Constitution was derived from, started without term limits. After Roosevelt did 3 terms, and on a 4th term, after he left office, they amended the Constitution to put 2 terms, after 100 years or so of experience. So there is a reason for this, and I think we should just be patient to keep it the way it is going, operate it for some time, acclimatize it to our environment, and then we can decide. I think it is too early, after just 10 or 12 years of operating a constitution, to start amending it to give unlimited number of terms or third term or whatever. I do not think that, you know, a leader can complete the job of leadership. You do your time, solve the problems you can solve, and bring up successors that will continue. That is how countries are built. That is how nations are built. That is how societies progress. You can't do everything alone. You can't sit there forever and think you're the only one that can solve the problem.
Now, have you had reactions to the book you wrote? Some individuals said the reason El-Rufai wrote the book is to paint a positive picture of himself in the public service. Have you had such reactions?
And look, you know, I have written a 700-page book. People will have different reactions to it. Okay? I frankly do not care what their reactions are. I have written the book and it's my story. Anyone that disagrees with it can write his story. Anyone that wants to attribute motives can do so. It is an open society and I respect freedom of speech. But anyone that reads that book will know that, you know, I did not write the book. It's not about El-Rufai, it's about what happened and while I was there. And the objective is more to enlighten people about how these mechanics go than talk about El-Rufai. In fact, there is very little there about El-Rufai. There is more about other people.
There's an issue that came up recently in Nigeria. I mean, talking about the parliament, and that has to do with the immunity issue by parliamentarians. Now, though we've had reactions from some quarters that immunity is not good, even from some parliamentarians, as an individual, not talking specifically about Nigeria and her own peculiar situation, would you say that immunity is what should be retained, whether for the executive or for the legislature?
No, I think in general immunity for the sovereign, okay, we got this idea of immunity from the unwritten British Constitution, in which the Queen, who is sovereign, is immune from prosecution. Okay, I think immunity for the president is a good thing, because you don't want a president to spend all his time in office defending himself against all kinds of things. All right, I think immunity for a state governor is a bit dodgy, because the governor is not sovereign. The president is sovereign.
But he's sovereign over a federating state?
Not really. You know, the states like to call themselves federating states.
Is that also in the Nigerian constitution?
They were created by the federal government.
So that's a difference.
There is a difference, okay? We are operating a presidential constitution, but people like to take these templates and apply them without looking at history. It's not quite the
Maybe because it is called the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We call ourselves a federation.
Yes, but we are only a federation in name. Let's be realistic. It calls itself a federal republic, but if you look at Nigeria, you'd see anything but a federal republic. We have one centralized police, for instance.
There should be a change.
There should be a change.
Constitution?
I think we need to discuss our federal structure and do something to make it more federal. That I agree with. And many things are possible and are on the table here. And we have talked about them at the level of our party and so on and so forth. But that is for another day. The point is this: immunity should be quite limited. This is my point. And in my opinion, perhaps it is only the president that deserves immunity, because he carries the burden of running the whole country. And you don't want the president to be constantly defending himself in court over every decision and action. I will not even support immunity for governors, because as we have seen in the last 12 years, this immunity has been abused. Now, immunity for legislators is ridiculous. It's absurd. It's absurd. I don't see it going anywhere, and it is an affront to the people of Nigeria, and Nigerians are going to resist it. It's absurd. So while you are a legislator, you cannot defend yourself against you're a super citizen. Let everybody answer his father's name. If you commit a crime, you should be tried. Or if you're suspected of committing a crime, you should be tried. If you defame somebody, you should be sued to defend your statements. But you cannot completely seclude yourself from people and say that you are representing them. It's absurd. And I'm happy that the Senate has stepped in to do the right thing.
Let me ask you this straight. do you think that what you're putting together, the APC, is an alternative that Nigerians need?
Yes. I believe so. I believe strongly so. Because the PDP has become a toxic party and is destroying this country. Nigerians need an alternative. And you can see from the media, the reaction to the formation of APC has confirmed the feelings of Nigerians and their frustrations with the PDP.
Thank you so much for being part of this show today.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Now you've had it all from Malam Nasir El-Rufai. Thank you so much for being part of today's edition of Straight Talk. My name remains Eshomomoh. Bye-bye.